Hi guys, welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy. During my interview with Lindsay Valandry, a former inmate turned sober coach who served time at the same Florida prison where Sarah Paulson Boone currently resides, we touched slightly on the dark world of her inmate neighbors, the cases on death row, and the notorious reputation of Lowell Prison in Florida. Tonight, we go even further and uncover the dangerous inmates living near Sarah Boone and the scandalous events that have unfolded within the prison walls. Do you remember Dalia Polito, who plotted to have her live-in boyfriend red-rummed by her undercover police officer? By an undercover police officer, or EmiliaCarr, once the youngest woman on death row until her sentence was commuted to life. Carr kidnapped and unalived her boyfriend's wife. Also, did you know Lowell Prison is reported to be hell on earth? Why, you say? Oh, well, bad water, attacks by guards, and more. These are just a few of the chilling stories that have emerged from Lowell Prison that we will be covering tonight. I'm going to roll some credits. And we're going to dive into tonight's topic, which is Sarah Boone and her new residents and scary neighbors on this episode of Parawomenradio. Shout out to my replay crew. Did you know I take 1 or 2 lives a week and edit them down into shorter videos? It's just an added way for you to be able to watch and or consume our content.
Cavalier's drumming his old guitar again. Words rolling out into our fire. If heaven had wings, I would steal them and fly away with you for a while. Hearing the essence of gratitude, your dreamy little smile on my lips. I miss my cue, but baby, I had you. Miss my cue, but I had you for that day. Here in the falling deep into you.
Here in the essence of gratitude, I am eternally grateful that I am not at Lowell Prison tonight. After researching it, you guys, it does sound like it is hell on earth. Not a place that I would want to be. But I can't help but think, Sarah Boone, congratulations, my friend. You did this to yourself. This is all you're doing. If Sarah Boone hadn't done what she had done, I don't think she would have ended up at Lowell. Well, I mean, obviously, what I'm talking about, what she did was horrific, truly horrific. But her display in court, I think, earned her what she has gotten where she is. And we're going to take a look first, because it did come out this week that Sarah did get her classification. So before we go into all that, I just want to take a quick look at Sarah's classification and where she will be within Lowell Prison, because I don't know if anybody saw our interview that we did with Lindsay. It was like 1 or 2 weeks ago. I've edited it down into a shorter video, taken out pauses and whatnot. But in the video, she does talk about how Lowell is like a dump. It's just a basic dump. Although the one good thing that she mentioned about it was that there was good food, which shocked me. But it's just a dump, and it's just kind of hell. And we didn't know quite yet where Sarah Boone was going to be within the prison. So we kind of talked here and there about it. But I did notice this week, Tanika's 2 Cents, a channel that I really like, came out, and she started talking about Sarah Boone received her classification. And I just have to play the start of it because it just made me laugh out loud. Because when I heard what her classification is, what Tanika says went exactly through my brain. Just have a listen. Let me make sure that I've got it up on the stage. I do. Okay.
So the snarky part of me wonders, was she so ill-behaved in these first 15, when did she get there? The 30th, right? 16, 17 days that she was designated to close management? Or is it because of her history? Wellness puzzles. Oh, we know how.
Yes. So, is it true? We've had prison guards on this show before, and I am going to do a panel. I'm working on getting a panel together of ex-prison guards, ex-inmates that will talk about Lowell Prison and Sarah Boone. But a part of me, is it punishment? Do prisons do that? Will they punish you like that? Will they put you in a higher classification because of your behavior in court or your behaviors in the first few days? I would have to believe yes. I would have to believe yes, that indeed it does. Tanika's video is quite long, but we're not gonna. What we often do here is I will play things, I'll talk over it. I won't play it all, or I'll read something, but I won't read it its entirety. But I will put the links to everything that we view during our videos down in our YouTube show notes. And I do this for fair play use, but I also do it to cite our sources. And also sometimes people want to just go and watch something without me talking over it. I get it. So the videos will be there for you. And before we get started, we are coming to you today on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Hi, everyone. If everyone could just give us a thumbs up, a heart, however you do it on the platform you're at, it just helps us go out into the algorithm. Party out there. And bring more interesting people back to the party. We're going to move forward, though. I found kind of a shorter video that I wanted to look at regarding her classification. This is another channel that I like to watch. It's Just Lazy Gamer. And we also have a quick document that we're going to look at the classification. And then we're going to go into the inmates that are probably Sarah's neighbors. Some of them are quite interesting. And then we're going to go into these things that are going down at Lowell facility.
Date for you when it comes to Sarah Boone's life behind bars. And needless to say, she is not going to be very happy with the situation she has put herself in. Now,
that seems to be the consensus, that Sarah Boone did this to herself, basically.
In reception. And it has that.
So she was in reception when talking to Lindsay. That's, we talked about it, and she thought quite probably that Sarah would be housed at Lowell. And indeed, I think she is being housed at Lowell. I do have a few things that I want to correct when we go a little bit further. I did misspeak about a few things, Sarah Boone, that I need to correct. I do want to say that sometimes I do make mistakes. I make mistakes. But if I find out that I make mistakes, and if you tell me that I've made the mistake and I check and verify that, yes, indeed, I did make that mistake, I do correct myself. And I want to live in a world where that can be my MO, where if I make a mistake, because I do make mistakes, I'm able to correct myself. And so I appreciate everybody that fact checks me and corrects me and helps me make it so that I'm bringing you the correct information.
On Sarah Boone, I actually go through the inmate handbook she is given when she arrived in reception. And it has that answer for us. Let's go through all the custody assignments so we can know exactly what Sarah Boone is missing out on. An issue that inmates are usually concerned about is their custody level. Your custody is determined by a number of factors, including length of sentence, criminal history, any history of violence, escape history, a number of other important factors. Your classification officer will explain your custody in more detail at your classification interview.
Okay, so he goes through all of that, and we in fact learn that Sarah Boone is one classification above or below, I don't know, however you want to call it, death row. So that's where Sarah Boone is at.
Interview. The following are the current custody classifications. Community. Community custody refers to that class of inmates who are eligible for placement at a community residential facility. Thankfully, not Sarah Boone. Minimum.
So over here, you can see there's maximum. There's maximum custody refers to that class of inmates who are under a sentence of death. And then there's close, which is close custody refers to that case of inmates who must be maintained within an armed perimeter or under direct armed supervision when outside of a secure perimeter. This is Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone is under close. And then, there's medium, which medium custody refers to that class of inmates who are eligible for placement at a work camp with a secure perimeter, but who are not eligible for placement in an outside work assignment without armed supervision. Then there's minimum. Minimum custody refers to that class of inmates who are eligible for outside work assignments, but not for placement at a community residence facility. And then there's community, which I don't think Sarah will ever be able to be in community, but I mean, I'm just guessing on that. But again, Sarah is over here at close. Let me show you the document I have that talks about that classification. Let me stop the screen and see how to share. They actually never shared a document. Let me see if that worked. Yes, it did. Okay. Oh, Chantal, thank you so much for your sticker, your super sticker. Your support means everything to me, and I really, really appreciate it. It's good to see someone covering the case. The information is great. Thank you for saying that. I am so happy that more and more people are covering it. And my Sarah Boone content, I call my sleeper content, because I'll put it out there and it just kind of sleeps and it grows and it grows and it grows. Like some of them with my videos, like if you put it out there, if 2 days and it's done, like you don't get very many views after 2 days. But my Sarah Boone stuff, it'll grow and grow and grow. Like the Lindsay, it just keeps growing. That video that interview I did with her, it's just growing and it's really nice. So I'm really excited that people still want to hear about her. It's never a good day when Sarah Boone is involved. Yeah, and it's never a good day for Sarah Boone anymore, I would think. I would think her life is pretty miserable right now. Boone is a danger to everyone around her. She should be kept apart from Gen Pop for the rest of forever. And it didn't even have to be that way. That's the thing that blows my mind. Sarah Boone did it to herself. It didn't even have to be like that. But okay, so her close management, we're just going to look at it a little bit really quick. So there's a housing supervisor, a correctional officer, sergeant or above, who's in charge of the close management unit for a particular shift. There's medical staff, there's mental health staff. There's close management, the confinement of an inmate apart from the general population for reasons of security or the order and effective management of the institution where the inmate, through his or her behavior, has demonstrated an inability to live in the general population without abusing the rights and privileges of others, which is interesting because it says the rights and privileges of others. So what was she doing to others? what rights and privileges was she abusing in jail. I can't wait until we hear like more that comes out about her jail experience. That's going to come sooner or later. We're going to get some interviews coming out, I'm sure. There's close management levels. There's 3 individual levels. There's CMI, well, CMI2 and CMI3. I'm not saying that right. Associated with close management, with CM1 being the most restricted single cell housing level, and CM3 being the least restrictive housing of the 3 CM levels. Individualized service plan. So being an ex-social worker, they all have service ISPs that they're going to have. Which does that mean they're going to have social workers? Well, yeah, there's a multidisciplinary service team that she'll have, a team of mental health program classifications. I mean, this all sounds well and good, but we know that Lowell is a hell on earth. So, I mean, on paper, this is what's going to be happening, but, and this is all my opinion, my research, alleged for entertainment and educational purposes only. I don't know any of this for a fact. But being an ex-social worker, just kind of guessing what went. I only worked slightly with inmates. I was working at a substance facility, and they were doing this. The place I worked had gotten this contract on inmates that were being released, and like the last 4 months, I did go to a few meetings, but I vaguely remember them. I don't remember. I remember being afraid. I actually do remember being afraid. And in talking to other PO officers, because I was considering, because I kind of bounced around in social work. I worked with foster care. I was a foster care social worker. I worked with disabled adults. I worked in the domestic. I worked with substance abuse. So I was kind of considering doing probation, but it scared me too much. I have this real physical fear of being harmed physically. I don't know. I was born with it. I've been afraid of the dark. I used to always try to get in bed with my mom. You know, I just have this fear of being attacked for no reason. And I've been robbed once, but I mean, I consider it my fault in a way. But I just feel like I just have this irrational fear. So prison reform is really important to me, but being able to like sit at home and talk about it is much more comfortable than going into prisons, because I did go into the jail. I went into jails, and I was working for my CAC, and so I was working with the jail prisoners, and somehow that didn't feel as dangerous as prison prisoners. I don't know why, but probably just a misconception, or a weird sense of fear and danger that I have. But I can see that this looks good on paper, but I don't know. I don't believe that it would be like this in true life. So there's supposed to be reviews. There's a warden, assistant warden for programs, institutional classification team docket. So this is all stuff that's supposed to be going on in her unit. If you want me to cover this more in depth, I can. But I just wanted to show you that she does have her classification. It looks pretty miserable. It doesn't look like. I think that if Sarah's behavior got her here, I think we might see a drastic change in Sarah's behavior if Sarah's able to control herself. I don't know what her mental diagnosis is, and I never tried to. I mean, I'll guess here and there, and I think one of Sarah's big diagnoses is borderline, and that's very, very hard to treat. So I think that Sarah has mental health issues that prevent her from being a reasonable human being. And I think that also her alcoholism, when talking to Lindsay, she said, there's not as much drinking that goes on in jail as in prison. But she said that Sarah probably isn't drinking at this point. So to me, 5 years of not drinking, if you're going to be a better person, if alcoholism is making you a shit person, because alcoholism does make some people a shit person, she would be better by now. I would think, I would guess, and helping others through their substance abuse issues. What do you guys think? Do you think Sarah Boone is ever going to be a better person? Do you think Sarah Boone is always just going to be Sarah Boone? Just a horrible human being. The person that we watched in court, the person who held the Orange County courts hostage for 5 years. Do you think Sarah's ever going to be a productive person in any form? Because I do think some prisoners can become productive people behind bars. I mean, you just look at the Menendez people. They were set, brothers, they were set to be there for the rest of their lives. And then they started beautification projects and mentorships and, stuff like that. Do you ever see Sarah Boone starting a beautification project at Lowell, or mentoring, or anything like that? Do you see that? I don't know. I don't see it. But I want it. I want to be able to see it. I want to be hopeful about it. Okay, so let's actually keep going. And let me show you who some of Sarah Boone's neighbors are, or possible neighbors. Hold on. Okay. Oops, that's not right. Sorry, you guys. I've got so much up on my page tonight. I had so much I want to show you tonight that there's probably like 30 windows open. Okay, here we go. So when we were talking with Lindsay, I misspoke a few times. So I need to correct myself on a few things. This was actually when I went over Sarah Boone's life before prison, her early years. And I don't know why I said this. I don't know. I seriously don't know why I said it, because later when someone corrected me, I was like, I said 97. Well, anyway, I was talking about her birth date. And I said that her birth date was 10/10/97. I don't know why. But it was 10/10/77. So her birthday is 10/10/97. When Lindsay was on, I named a number of women being on death row, saying, oh my gosh, there's so many women on death row. There's not. Those were past women on death row that I was naming off. So they were women that had been on Florida death row, but were either put to death or taken off death row and put into a life sentence. Currently, there's only 3 women on death row, and we're going to look at them. But yeah, so I really apologize. Also, I think I said that the prison had internet, and they're not. Well, to me, internet, you can email them. They can do apps they get tablets. They can do apps on their tablet. I mean, it's internet, but it's limited internet, but technically it's not internet. So they don't have internet. But they have tablets that they have, they can do learning apps on, different apps, and then they can email. So, I mean, there's apps on their tablet, but So it's a limited type deal. So those were the corrections that I really wanted to make sure that you guys knew about, because I don't want misinformation out there. I think she might just get worse. She seems pretty inhumane. Yeah, that closing spectacle that she did was quite the little cherry on top of her sundae of spectacles. So, past and present, here are all the women who have been sentenced to death row in Florida. And death row is housed in the same prison that Sarah Boone will be in. Obviously, not on the same unit, but it is in the same. It's at the Lowell Correctional. So, here are some of the women that have been there. Women who have received the death penalty in Florida. There was Berta Hall in 1929. 23-year-old Bertha Hall and Gordon Denmark, 22, were sentenced on October 9th, 1926 to the electric chair for unaliving her grocer husband. There was Billy Jackson. She was sentenced in Duval County on February 1st, 1927 for the piercing death of her musician husband, Governor Martin. Commuted her sentence 7 months later, and she was released in 1935 or 1936. So there was Ruby McCollum, Irene Laverne Jackson, Maria Dean Arrington, Sonia Jacobs, Casey B. Dudley, Carla Collier, D.D. Castile, Deidre Hunt, Andrea Hicks, Virginia Larzillier. Some women who have been executed was Judius Goodyear Bonanno. Sorry for the butchering. Aileen Warnos. She was very popular, serial killer. Aileen is a well-known serial killer who was implicated in the deaths of several men in Florida. She was ultimately sentenced from Volusia County on January 31st, 1992. On the December 1st, 1989 shooting of a Clearwater businessman, she was executed on October 9th, 2002. There was Tiffany Cole, Margaret Allen, Tina Brown, and we're going to take a look at a few of these women more in depth. These are the three women who are still on Florida's death row. Tina Brown of Pensacola is on death row for murdering her neighbor. And yes, I have to say these weird words because YouTube doesn't like certain words, which I live for a day where I can just say what I would need to say on YouTube, but that day isn't here yet. So Tina Brown of Pensacola is on death row for murdering her neighbor. Tina Brown, 52, arrived on death row in October 2013 for the brutal murder of her neighbor, 19-year-old Audrina Zimmerman. Brown, with help from a friend and her then 16-year-old daughter, Brittany Miller, ambushed Zimmerman in a trailer, attacked her repeatedly with a stun gun, gagged her, stuffed her in the trunk of a car, drove her into the woods, beat her with a crowbar, doused her with gasoline, set her on fire, and left her to die. Tiffany Cole of Jacksonville, she's on death row for murdering an elderly couple. Tiffany Cole, 41, was sentenced to death on March 6, 2008 in Duval County after being convicted in July 2005 kidnappings and murders of James and Carol Summer in Jacksonville. Cole's one of the four people who kidnapped Carol and Reggie Summer, both 61, from their St. Nicholas home in 2005 and drove them to Carlton County, Georgia, where they were buried alive. She is currently on death row at Lowell Correctional Institute. Here's a quick video of the three women that I mentioned. We didn't read the third one, but she's mentioned in this one.
prosecution pursues the death penalty, the sentence is decided by the jury and must be unanimous. In case of a hung jury during the penalty phase of the trial, a life sentence is issued, even if a single juror.
I feel like somebody asked, can they jailbreak the tablet and get internet, or would she have to get a contraband cell phone? I feel like with them not being able to have the internet, I know there's a way you can block the internet. I don't know. I feel like there's always a way, if you get a computer geek in there, that they'll know how to do something. But I think Sarah Boone will more than likely have to do the cell phone route. I don't think she doesn't strike me as an internet geek, but who knows? That is a good question.
Post-death, there is no retrial. Prior to 2014, the judge decided the sentence alone, and the jury gave only a non-binding advice. In March 2014, the Florida legislature provided a 10-juror supermajority to issue a sentence of death. This was also challenged and
I did some reading on death row in Florida, and apparently Florida is like going down on their executions. The public support for executions has gone way down, and Florida is leading the charge and releasing people into life sentences.
In October 2014, the Florida Supreme Court struck down the law, finding that death sentences can only be handed down by a unanimous jury. In Florida, murder can be punished by death if it involves one of the next aggravating factors. It was committed by a person previously convicted of a felony and under sentence of imprisonment, placed on community control, or on felony probation. The defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or of a felony involving the use or threat of violence to the person.
It is very rare, and a lot of them are getting commuted to life sentences. So we're going to look at one of them. The youngest female prisoner on death row was commuted over to life. We've got a few that we're going to go in depth and look at. There's like 5 of them that we're going to look at.
The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to many persons. It was committed while the defendant was engaged, or was an accomplice, in the commission of, or an attempt to commit a specified felony, such as aggravated child abuse, arson, kidnapping.
They're saying that in order to be on death row, it has to be a unanimous type deal.
Currently on Florida death row. These are their names and crime committed. Tiffany Ann Cole. She was born December 3, 1981, in South Carolina. In early July 2005, Tiffany Cole, Michael Jackson, and 2 other men, Alan Wade and Bruce Nixon, drove to the Sumners' home. The Sumners were a former neighbor of Tiffany. The Sumners in many occasions helped Tiffany financially.
So this was the elderly couple that I just read, that Tiffany unalived, that she did with her boyfriend.
Nixon willingly led police to the Sumners' grave, revealing that both victims had managed to free themselves of their bonds, but could only manage to hug each other in their final moments before they died. At Tiffany Cole's week-long trial in October 2000.
I can't think of a much more horrific way. Well, I mean, what Sarah did was horrific, but burying someone alive, because Sarah basically buried George alive in that suitcase, didn't she? Ugh.
7. The jury deliberated for less than 90 minutes before finding her guilty of first-degree murder. They voted 9-3 that she should receive the death penalty. Evidence included photos of Tiffany Cole and 2 co-defendants in a limousine, celebrating with champagne and handfuls of cash. In 2010, Cole's petition to the United States Supreme Court for a writ of certiorari was denied. In 2017, the Florida Supreme Court ordered new sentencing hearings for Cole, Wade, and Jackson, because their juries had not unanimously recommended the death penalty. A 2016 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Hurst versus Florida, found that Florida's
Sam says her score on the hair psychopathy checklist is identical to Jeffrey Dahmer, slightly less than Eileen Wuornos, far less than Ted Bundy, and equal to John Wayne Gacy. Where is this? Sam, where is this? Because I would love to take a look at that. Wow. Yeah, that's terrifying. But believable after the performance she put on. I mean, I don't even think it's a performance. I think what she did is who she truly is. And yeah, I mean, she did us all a favor probably by earning herself life in prison instead of 15 years because we're much safer for it. But what an idiot.
higher law permitting non-unanimous jury verdicts in death penalty. Margaret Ann Allen, born on January 23rd.
This is the next person that is on death row.
Margaret Ann Allen, born on January 23rd, 1966. In February 12, 2005, a housekeeper in Brevard County had household chemicals, including bleach, poured down her throat, was strangled and then buried in a shallow grave over some missing money. Titusville police received information that a body was buried in an unmarked grave somewhere off State Road 46. When investigators began questioning people, they learned that Wenda Wright, who was a housekeeper for Margaret Allen at 415 South Robbins Avenue, had allegedly been killed in the house and transported to some nearby woods. Chemicals were poured into her mouth. Duct tape was placed over her mouth, so this was not a fast death. It was a tortuous death, unfortunately. Allen told investigators that she killed Wright because she thought Wright had stolen her purse containing $2,000. When Wright would not admit to taking the purse, Allen became enraged and started beating Wright. Allen's son, Quentin, helped hold the woman down as Margaret Allen allegedly poured chemicals down her throat. Margaret Allen and son then allegedly strangled her with a belt. After questioning Quentin Allen, he reportedly revealed to police the approximate location of Wright's body. James Martin was also arrested and charged with accessory after the fact. It is believed that Martin helped bring Wright's body out to a remote area. All three were arrested and transported to the Brevard County Jail.
So it takes quite a bit of brutality to earn your way on death row, I would say.
And traumatic brain injuries. Dr. Joseph Wood testified that her brain injuries would make it difficult for Allen to conform her conduct to cultural expectations.
So she obviously tried to say that she had some brain injuries that made her do it. So this is the third person that is on death row.
In 1970, Tina Brown was convicted of beating 19-year-old Audrina Zimmerman with a crowbar, shocking her with a stun gun, and then setting her on fire in Brown's family home. Brown's daughter Brittany Miller, then 16, told the judge at her own trial that the plan was to fight Zimmerman, but it escalated out of control. The attack was said to be the result of a disagreement over a man. After beating her and using the stun gun, the trio put Zimmerman in the trunk of a car, drove her to a wooded area, doused her with gasoline and set her on fire. Zimmerman was able to run to a nearby home and call 911, with severe burns across 60% of her body. She died 2 weeks later. Brown, her daughter, Brittany Miller, then 16, and neighbor Heather Lee, attacked Zimmerman in Brown's Ensley home in 2010. Lee testified against Brown during the trial, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Miller was sentenced to life in prison without parole in 2013 for her role in the attack.
So those are the three that are on death row. So I got to thinking, okay, those are the people that are probably like on the cell block above or, in a different whatever. But who are going to be her neighbors? Who are some of the other well-known cases that are known to be hanging out at Lowell? So, of course, I had to head over to Reddit because Reddit is one of my favorite places to go. Um, you found it on the internet? Okay, I'll have to take a look and see if I can find it on my own. So this person says, I just noticed Sarah is in the same reception center as Lori Shaver. So I was like, Lori Shaver? Who is Lori Shaver? And so this is Lori Shaver. She's at the Florida Reception Center. She's sentenced to life, so chances are Sarah Boone and Lori will be hanging out. I had to go and take a look and see what this case was all about. And here is a little bit about Lori. So this was Florida versus Lori Shaver, buried in the backyard murder trial. A Florida woman was sentenced to life in prison for murdering her husband, who was found buried in her backyard. In September, a jury deliberated for a little less than 4 hours in the trial of Lori Shaver before convicting her of second-degree murder in the November 15 fatal shooting of Michael Shaver. Prosecutors argued Lori buried Michael's remains in the backyard of their Claremont home and then impersonated him in text and Facebook messages to create the impression he was still alive. Michael's body was found in March 2018, 3 feet below ground under a concrete slab and fire pit that Lori installed in the backyard 2 years prior. Lori was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and accessory after the fact in September 2020. She was out on bond while awaiting trial. During pretrial proceedings, Lori's defense claimed her daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, pulled the trigger and unalived her father during a violent episode to protect her mother. Interesting. She pulled out her daughter. Do you think Sarah would have pulled out her son if her son had been spending the night that night? Would she have blamed it on her son? Somehow talked him into getting into it, and she went to bed and didn't know anything about it. I could see that happening. Anyway, during pretrial proceedings, Lori's defense claimed, the Shavers were living together but dating other people when Michael went missing. Lori's defense wanted to present evidence that Michael allegedly subjected Lori to years of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. Lori's defense claimed in court documents that their 2 children witnessed much of the physical abuse, including an alleged incident on the day Michael was last seen alive that led their daughter to unalive her father. So she received life.
Also breaking at this hour, the woman who killed her husband and then buried his body in their backyard will spend the rest of her life in prison. Lori Shaver was just sentenced this afternoon. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger was in the courtroom and joins us live with that story. So, Marie, how did she react?
She actually smiled when the sentence came down, but throughout today's hearing, she was making a number of faces, kind of sneering at some points. Her attorney had asked for the minimum possible sentence of 25 years, arguing that she had suffered from domestic abuse in the past. But the judge heard that and went the opposite direction anyway.
The court hereby sentences you to a term of life in the Florida Department of Corrections.
Lori Shaver will be spending the rest of her life in prison after being convicted of second-degree murder. Prosecutors say she killed her ex-husband, Michael Shaver, impersonated him for months, buried him in the backyard, built a concrete slab over the burial site, and then blamed her own daughter for the killing.
He explained to us it is life, so she will not get out early.
Brian Shaver told the judge his brother's killer, Lori Shaver, now Lori Filmer, left an immeasurable void in their lives.
Michael got life, and she did too.
Two of Michael Shaver's friends also wrote impact statements for the state attorney's office to read aloud. One of them wrote a plea to the judge asking for Lori Shaver to never be returned to society.
Lori's inhuman.
And we know that in Florida, indeed, life is life. And we do see here that she's at the Florida Reception Center. That's where Sarah Boone is at. Sarah's at the Florida Reception Center. We can see here she is at the Sarah Boone at the Florida Reception Center. This person over on Reddit, puts the question, this person says, I keep checking Lori's status to see if she gets her prison of choice. And then this person says, if they are both in reception area, both in for murder 2 and not in solitary, will they be having a chance to eat together or go out in the yard for a walk around the place together? And we do know that Lindsay said that there is, you do go out to eat. You don't sit in a pod or anything like that. There is a place where you go and eat. So chances are they probably are seeing each other, but also it's like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of eating. You don't go in and you don't leisurely eat. It's like go in, scarf it down and get out and move on, like 5 minutes. So she's, probably not, socializing while they're eating, but if they're hanging out in the same, they're charged for the same thing, they probably are commiserating together. Wouldn't you think they would be? I would. But we also still don't know exactly when we were looking at the Lowell Correctional, I would like to know what building she's in. I'm that nosy. I want to know where Sarah Boone is hanging out. So maybe one day we'll get to that point. But yeah, so that is one person that Sarah Boone is more than likely hanging out with. Here is another person that I discovered just before. This was something that I found just before I came on. This person was, remember her? She was on, this is Rebecca Fenton, and she was on, Pierce Bronson? Remember her?
Interesting part that stood out to me was that there was a lot of circumstantial evidence collected at the time, but not enough to arrest Rebecca until 5 years after her husband's passing. They arrested her, and she was also sentenced to life. Let's look at a clip of the interview.
She's in Lowell, and she's sentenced to life, just like Sarah Boone.
Of an extraordinary miscarriage of justice, in which case your incarceration here for the rest of your life is unspeakably unfair. Or you're a cold, calculating murderess and the best liar I've ever met in my life. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know which one it is.
This area where the interviews...
No, she's been in there for a while, so I could see this woman being Queen Bee, because I do remember Pierce saying that she was one of the most terrifying interviews that he's ever had.
Conducted looks like the visitors area where you can come and visit someone,
which is interesting. Here's another quick peek that we can look at. This is being filmed in Lowell Correctional at the visitor center. So
little windows. So I just thought we could pause and take a look at that.
A Clearwater woman says she walked into her home this afternoon to find her husband lying on the floor dead.
It's Larry. It's Larry A. Benton. And he loves me and I love him. And
here's
it cannot be happening.
I really think she thought she was smarter than we were, and she was going to commit this perfect crime.
I will link the full interview in the description if you're interested in watching it. There was a lot of
So this is another woman. I remember watching this case on the case files. Like I did anyone ever remember when cable was a thing? Everyone had cable, and there was that IG channel and just all the case files. And I remember hers being on the case file. And again, she's another person that's in there for life. So yeah. Let's keep going. Here we have sorry, wrong one. This was the youngest woman on death row, EmiliaCarr. She was convicted of first-degree murder in 2009. But I think what happened with her was because there was that law that came by where you couldn't put a person under 17, I think, on death row. Or they had to be reevaluated or something, and they all came up, all these underage juvenile cases either were commuted to life, or even the ones that were put on life had to be looked at and decided if they were going to like get a lesser sentence, because you could no longer convict a juvenile of life. Or I don't know, this was like 10 years ago. I don't know if they've amended it, but I remember when that was all happening. And this is when this happened for her. EmiliaCarr, once Marion County's only female death row inmate, will now spend the rest of her life in prison. After an evidentiary hearing May 19th, the state declined to seek a new death penalty phase, according to court records, and 5th Judicial Circuit Court Judge Willard Pope resentenced Carr, 32, to life in prison without parole. She has been fighting her death sentence since 2011. There are now only 3 women on death row. Carr placed a garbage bag. A Marion County jury in 2010 found Carr guilty as charged of kidnapping and first-degree murder in the 2009 death of 26-year-old Heather Strong. Carr and her boyfriend, co-defendant Joshua Fulgham, 35, lured his estranged wife, Strong, to a storage trailer in Boardman in North Marion County. When Carr arrived, Strong tried to leave and a scuffle ensued. Fulgham held Strong down as Carr taped her to a chair. Fulgham then forced Strong to sign a document that gave him custody of their 2 children. Carr placed a garbage bag over Strong's head, and Fulgham held it tight and wrapped tape around his wife's neck. Carr tried twice to break Strong's neck. Carr said Fulgham then put his hands over Strong's nose and mouth and suffocated her. Strong's body was found near the trailer 4 days later. The jury voted 7-5 to recommend death for Carr. Fulgham was sentenced to life in 2012 with a vote of 8-4. Carr appealed her sentence, raising several issues, including possible errors by the trial judge and the proportionality of the death sentence. In 2015, the Florida Supreme affirmed Carr's death sentence. This case involves a love triangle between the victim, Heather Strong, her estranged husband, Joshua Fulgham, and the defendant, EmiliaCarr, that ended when Carr and Fulgham carried out their plan to unalive Strong, the High Court wrote in its decision. But ultimately, it's been commuted to life. So this is another person that probably is spending time with good old Sarah Boone. Here we have her sitting with Tina Brown, I believe that was, right? Okay. Let me find myself here. Okay, another person that, other people that are doing, more people over on Reddit in Lowell Prison. There's Katherine Magbanua. I don't even know how to say that, if that's right. Katherine Magbanua. She's incarcerated in the prison. I hadn't heard of her. So I had to look at her, and Katherine was sentenced to life in prison plus 2 30-year sentence in Dan Markle's murder, which, I mean, I probably should have, because he was the state person that she shot. Circuit Judge Robert Wheeler sentenced Katherine Magbanua to life in prison plus 2 additional 30-year sentence run in her role for the murder of Florida state law professor Dan Markle. Last week marked 8 years since Markle was gunned down in his Benton Hills garage. Tara Cowis, Magbanua's attorney. One thing that I can say that Miss M hopes and prays for is that justice is ongoing and has not been reached in this case, and she wants each and every person who has hand in this and knows something about this to be brought to justice. So let's take a quick look at this.
That's it from Ms. Magbanua. And I
All right.
appreciate the time, and I also wanted me to thank the court. She didn't get an opportunity to do that at the end of the trial. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kawas. Okay, I did have the score sheet here that I mentioned before, and the lowest permissible sentence on the counts 2 and 3 would be 172.50 months on those. And then the statutory maximum, as we've mentioned, is 30 years. Ms. Kappelman, would you mind going up, and can you move that podium, because I can't see you behind that at this point. So if you can move it one way or the other so that I can see you sitting at the table. Great. Thank you very much. All right. Also, do we, Madam Clerk or Ms. Kappelman, do we know what the credit for time served is at this point?
I have that, yes, sir. 2,119 days.
All right. And what the court costs are, Madam Clerk?
That would be $2,625 plus a $100 cost of prosecution.
Okay. And the state's asking that all sentences run consecutive. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. The state's ready to proceed to sentencing in the state of Florida versus Katherine Magbanua, 2016 CF 3036 and 2018 CF 497.
I believe she is still in the Florida prison, Rebecca. And Googling it, it pops right up that she is in Florida prison. Oops. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I didn't mean to show you that.
Magbanua is present here in the courtroom along with her counsel. On count 1, which is the count of first-degree murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to life in prison with no eligibility for probation or parole. On count 2, which is the conspiracy to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury. You will be adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. On count 3, the solicitation to commit murder, you have been found guilty by a jury of that count. You are adjudicated guilty, and you will be sentenced to a consecutive sentence of 30 years in the Department of Corrections. You have credit for time served of 2,119 days. Your court costs are $2,625 and $100 cost of prosecution, and those will be civil judged. You have 30 days to file a notice of appeal, and if you cannot afford counsel, then
Okay, so that was another woman that is in the Lowell prison. We also see, do you remember Dalia DiPolito? I remember this case. Dalia is the one who hold on. Yeah. Dalia is the one who asked a undercover police detective to unalive her live-in boyfriend. I mean, the police really did a number on her. It was a beautiful sting that they did. She fought it for quite some time. I really thought that maybe she wasn't going to end up going to prison, but ultimately she did manage to get herself. Let me make sure that took you where okay. So how Dalia DiPolito is managing prison life and her legal team's hope for a new trial. She was convicted in 2011 for solicitation to commit first-degree murder. Big 2020 special. I would show it to you, but they would copyright strike me in an instant. So Dalia DiPolito has been called many things over the course of her roller coaster legal saga: a monster, an evil woman who wanted her husband dead, a black widow, but her longtime defense argues she is something else entirely. Dalia is the most misunderstood woman in the United States. Really? It's not Sarah Boone? Her attorney told 2020 in a recent interview, the perception that people have in the world about Dalia does not equate with the Dalia that I know. Dalia is one of those people that got pregnant too. She thought that if she would get pregnant while she was waiting for her trial, that it would help her not have to go to prison. That's what I believe, at least. After 3 trials and 2 convictions, the 37-year-old is currently being held at the Lowell Correctional Facility in Marion County, Florida. Claypool began representing DiPolito after her first trial, and her defense then hopes to succeed at one last shot at getting her a new trial. She was never a career criminal. In fact, Dalia didn't even have a criminal record when this went down. I mean, she solicited murder. I mean, you don't have to have a criminal record to do that, do you? Do you guys remember this? I think this might be one of the more popular ones. So the police put her in a sting. She went to the gym while they went to the guy's house and got him out of there. She came home. They said, "Oh my gosh, he's been murdered. Do you know what could have happened?" And she put on the performance of a lifetime. And then they were like, we gotcha. So that's Dalia. Do you guys remember that one? The next one that we have, well, actually, that is all that we have. I wanted to move on and talk about Lowell Prison itself. What time is it? Oh, yeah, we've got more time. Okay, so Lowell Prison, wanted to talk about that in the hellhole that it is. So Lowell Prison Correctional is a women's prison in Marion County, Florida, north of Ocala. We talked about a little bit. I live in Florida. I don't live in Ocala, but I live in a few counties over. And I hear a lot of stuff about Ocala being very an inbred type of county, very backwoods, very poor. So it opened in 1956 as the Florida Correctional Institution and was the first Florida prison for women. It houses community, minimum, medium, and close custody inmates. At the time it was open, Lowell was the only prison that housed solely female offenders in the state. Here is the sign outside of it: "We never walk alone." And when I was talking to Lindsay, she talked about what a hellhole it is. the only good thing she mentioned about it was the food, which shocks me. Still, I don't know why it shocks me that it's to shock you that the food is good. But then I always think, like, I'm a fussy eater. Is the food really good? Like, I am like I have a really hard time eating stuff that my brain will overtake my stomach, and I just can't do it. And so, like, is it really good food? I don't know. I guess I'd have to hear from more people to really truly believe if it's good food. But I don't know. But there was this thing that I found in the Tampa Bay Times. Florida new prison could be contaminated, but let women keep drinking. Data showed contamination from a firefighter college reached Lowell Correctional Institution. State officials did nothing for months. So it's no secret that the groundwater around the Florida State Fire College has been highly contaminated for years. This was updated in March 5th of 2024. So state health officials began warning nearby homeowners in 2019 that well water could damage their health after testing revealed groundwater around the college contained harmful human-made chemicals at levels more than 170 times higher than the state considers safe. It's no mystery where the pollution came from either. For years, firefighters at the college trained with foam extinguishers laced with chemicals that leached into groundwater. The chemicals, which have been phased out of industrial use in the United States, are classified as carcinogens and have been linked to other health issues, including cancer, thyroid issues, weakened immune systems, and irregular menstruation. The cleanup in a rural part of Marion County that relies on water pumped from the ground has taken the Florida Department of Environmental Protection more than 4 years, and it is still ongoing. Contaminated soil has been removed from the college, and the state provided bottled water and money for filtration systems to homeowners whose wells tested above safe levels. But inmates at Lowell Correctional Institution, a 2,400-bed women's prison across the street from the fire college, say they weren't told about the potential risk in their tap water, even as state data showed that contamination had spread to the prison. State environmental officials warned the Florida Department of Corrections in a December 2022 email that the contamination was spreading south toward the prison and asked to dig a monitoring well on the Lowell campus. Within 4 months, testing from the well confirmed that the groundwater beneath the prison contained chemical compounds from the foam at almost 3 times the level considered safe by the state. Records obtained by the Tampa Bay Times show. The Department of Environmental Protection confirmed that finding in a June notice sent to the Department of Corrections Tallahassee office. The notice listed both Lowell and the neighboring Florida Women's Reception Center to the east. The 1,235-bed facility houses newly incarcerated women, in addition to serving as an inpatient mental health and short sentence institution. But state officials took no action for 8 months, allowing the women to continue to drink, wash, and eat food cooked in water from supply wells that had not been tested for the foam chemicals since 2018, state records show. When contacted by the Times at the state of February, corrections officials said that the wells used for drinking water were tested regularly and the prison has a reliable and non-contaminated water source. But records show those monthly tests were limited to checking for bacteria like E. coli and fecal coliform, and therefore wouldn't detect contamination from the fire college. So they just sort of let it go on. Water safety became an issue when several women at Lowell filed grievances, fearing that the drinking water was tainted by the foam chemicals. Shauna Taylor, who is about halfway through a 12-year prison sentence for aggravated child abuse and neglect, filed hers to the Secretary of the Department of Corrections in August, Please provide me safe drinking water and send me an outside medical specialist, she wrote. Adding to Taylor's unease was that she never saw guards drink tap water. She told the Times prisoners can purchase bottled water, but the $1.15 cost is out of reach for many at the prison who have no income. Her grievance was denied. I think they feel we deserve less because we're prisoners. That's because we're here. We don't deserve treatment and proper care, Taylor said. I do not feel like people should be harmed by drinking bad drinking water. So it is upsetting that they would do that. Not surprising to me that in our country that this would happen, but certainly not surprising. Dalia was working as an escort when he ordered her for a date. They married quickly, and so they did marry. I didn't think they married. Okay, so I'm wrong. They did get married. They married quickly, and she was refusing to give back the house, put it in her name. Yeah. Police knew that Dalia tried to set her husband by planting drugs in his car because of her record. Yep, she did that too. She's where she deserves to be, and she's a piece of work. Officers accused of inmate beating when left woman paralyzed, not charged nearly 3 years later. So there is beatings and grapes that are supposed to be happening at Lowell. Our Crisis in Correction series continues with the story of a former Florida prisoner who's now paralyzed after being beaten by corrections officers. The I-Team learned that while the state was paid out $4.65 million tax dollars to settle the case, the officers believed to be responsible for having beaten Cheryl Weimer have yet to face criminal charges nearly 3 years later. We traveled more than 400 miles to West Weimer in Fort Walton Beach at one of the few facilities in Florida that can provide her for extensive needs and accepts convicted felons. Weimer appreciates the little things like a few minutes of fresh air in a park away from her nursing home. This is a blessing. Weimer said when we met her, she hopes by speaking out, she can help prevent other incarcerated individuals from suffering at the hands of correction officers. She says she's every waking moment she's in pain. She can feel her bones. It's like somebody took an axe and went right through me. Yet she believes the Florida prison system is far more broken than her body. When I woke up in the ICU, knowing that I was paralyzed from the neck down, I didn't see me making it, she said. She said she had a troubled early life. She was living under a bridge after Hurricane Andrew and gave birth on all fours under an overpass. She was arrested for petty crimes over the next 2 decades. In 2014, her then boyfriend, Stephen Horowitz, was arrested for punching and kicking her in the ribs at a Broward County motel. He beat her up. She was afraid and she punctured him. Then she got arrested. In 2015, she was convicted of domestic violence for puncturing Horowitz with a steak knife and was sentenced to 7 years at Lowell Correctional Institute. I had to fight. I had to do the best I could to get out of the situation. A brutal beating leads to a broken neck. On August 21st, 2019, Weimer was assigned to clean toilets, but she said she was in pain from a hip injury. I did about 7 toilets and I realized I couldn't do any more, she said. So I got down to the 8th one and I said, I can't do it. That's when she said corrections officer Ryan Dion and Lieutenant Keith Turner handcuffed her and then attacked her in front of more than a dozen witnesses. The lieutenant came running up in the back with his steel-toed boots and put it right through my spine. I mean, I went to my knees. According to the lawsuit, while she was on the ground, they brutally beat her with blows to her head, neck, and back. The lawsuit alleges Weimer was elbowed and kneed in the back of her neck by at least one of her attackers, causing her to suffer a broken neck. In one of the videos, her chin is touching her chest in a way that's physically impossible without a broken neck. Ugh. Ugh. Andrew said he could not share the disturbing videos due to a settlement agreement. Her labored breathing, her attempts at crying, it was horrible, Andrew said. Her begging, saying she couldn't move her extremities, it was horrific. Andrew said he could not, she was airlifted to an airport or to a, hold on, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, it's stuck in my nose. She was airlifted to a hospital where she underwent multiple surgeries and months of treatment. Corrections officers have questionable past. Initially, the guards accused of assaulting her remained on the job despite their questionable past. Everybody covers everybody's back. You just sweep it under the rug and go about your business. Both Diane and Turner had records of violence towards women and girls. According to the lawsuit, Diane was arrested in 2013 for beating his then girlfriend, as well as biting her neck and head area. Good God. The charges were dropped when his victim refused to testify, allowing Diane to qualify for employment by the Florida Department of Corrections. The lawsuit also alleges Turner showed violent, threatening, and abusive conduct towards women based on dozens of inmate complaints against him. A DOJ investigation into the mistreatment of prisoners at Lowell said Turner was accused repeatedly of sexually abusing multiple prisoners. However, he remained in his position until 2019 when he was arrested on charges of actually harming two small people. They could have terminated one of the individuals for any of 10 different things that he had complaints against him for. Andrew said they didn't, and they gave him opportunity to be there and to do what he did to Cheryl. Transcripts show Diane and Turner asserted their Fifth Amendment rights more than 600 combined times during depositions. Man, I wish the sneeze would just come out. Ooh. In the affirmative defense, Diane and Turner filed within the lawsuit. They stated that their actions were not committed in bad faith with malicious purpose or in a manner exhibiting wanton or willful disregard of human rights or safety. Attempts to contact them were unsuccessful. The Florida Department of Corrections settled the lawsuit in 2020 and paid $4.65 million. And then this is the final thing that I have for tonight. I actually have more up, but we're going to have to end it here. I'll push over the next stuff to our next Sarah Boone because, I mean, I've got some good stuff. I've got Sarah Boone finding religion. I've got Sarah Boone, what happened to her dogs. I got her bestie speaks out. The judge says no new trial for her. There's just a lot of Sarah Boone. I could go on and on talking about Sarah Boone. But here we have a Florida women's prison staff accused of, and I can't say the R word, so we're going to be calling it graping from here on out. Graping inmates, other disturbing abuses. Ocala, Florida, a women's prison in Ocala has shown a long-standing pattern of abusing inmates, including rape and other actual abuse by staff. But the Department of Corrections has failed to protect Lowell inmates for more than a decade. A U.S. Department of Justice investigation found. The Lowell Correction Institute in Ocala, Florida's oldest and largest women's prison with more than 1,450 inmates overseen by Warden Stephen Rossiter. According to the DOC, it's also the largest women's prison in the country. On Tuesday, the Civil Rights Division of, when was this written? 2020. So this was 4 years ago. On Tuesday, the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ released a 36-page report detailing crimes committed against inmates and a pattern of discouraging prisoners from reporting abuse. What is happening? I have to sneeze and I suddenly can't read. According to the report, it's like all I can think about. I just want this dang sneeze to come out. According to the report, the Florida Department of Corrections has known about this pattern of staff actual abuse at the prison since at least 2006. A Miami Herald investigation in 2015 detailed complaints filed by prisoners between 2011 and 2015 saying women were repeatedly subjected to abuses. Many victims told the Herald they would often comply because they felt they had no other choice. The Department of Justice began investigating the facility in April 2018 to determine if the constitutional rights of prisoners were being violated. Throughout the 2-year investigation, investigators reviewed 108,505 pages of documents, made 4 on-site visits, and interviewed prison and FDOC staff as well as prisoners. They cited Miami Herald investigations saying the Department of Corrections could have taken action as the reporting was a result of DOC documents and public records requests. So, wow. It looks like the report details multiple examples of inmates being raped by a correction officer, and the officer ultimately remained on the job. Some accusations ended in criminal charges, while others have not, according to the DOJ. The report does not name former and current DOC staff in allegations, but News 6 has reported several recent arrests cited in the report, making the individuals easy to identify. Former Lowell Lieutenant Keith Turner was repeatedly accused of actually abusing multiple prisoners at Lowell over several years, but remained in his position until last year when he was arrested for actually harming 2 small girls outside the prison, according to the DOJ. Turner was fired on November 2019 following his arrest. Meanwhile, another incident was still under investigation. In addition to being an accused predator, the report states Turner was credibly accused of unjustified use of force against a Lowell prisoner. In August 2019, he was accused of brutally beating a handcuffed Lowell prisoner and leaving her quadriplegic. The former DOC recently settled in August with the inmate, agreeing to pay $4.65 million. A sergeant was arrested in July for actual misconduct after engaging in acts in a maintenance room with an inmate, according to the DOJ. The same sergeant was accused of actually abusing a different prisoner in 2017. Causing injuries to her throat and retaliating when she refused. The DOJ never completed the 2017 investigation, federal prosecutors say. Lowell has a long-standing pattern of criminal charges, discipline, and documented allegations of staff actual abuse. The report reads, a trainee corrections officer, Nicholas Seaburn Jefferson, was sentenced 2 years in prison in September 2019 after he pleaded guilty to actual misconduct with a prisoner. The prisoner said on 2 separate occasions in 2018, the officer woke her up in the middle of the night, walked her to a bathroom where she had actual intercourse with him in exchange for a prescription drug used to treat opiate withdrawal. Investigators wrote, it's a particularly disturbing that supervisors are among the repeat perpetrators of sexual abuse at Lowell. In 2018, a sergeant raped a prisoner, causing injuries that were photographed and documented. The same year, another inmate was raped between two buildings outside. Good gosh. Other inmates told investigators they are repeatedly groped and subjected to sexually explicit comments and harassments. Prisoners are often threatened with solitary confinement if they report abuse, the investigation found. Of 161 actual abuse investigations reviewed by the DOJ, 8 resulted in the arrest of an officer. I mean, 8? Good gosh. In several cases, officers resigned, and more than 24 officers were dismissed due to agency policy. So obviously it was more. The DOJ made a series of corrective measures for the Florida Department of Corrections and Lowell to take, including the way it handles actual abuse investigation. The Florida Department of Corrections released a statement to the Associated Press saying they have cooperated fully with the Justice Department investigation and will continue to do so. The state said it will share with federal officials the actions the prison has taken to address the serious concerns outlined in the review. Prison officials have a constitutional duty to protect prisoners from harm, including actual abuse by staff. Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Eric Dreban, said in a statement, actual abuse is never acceptable and is not part of any prisoner's sentence. And I will wholeheartedly agree with that one. Gosh. But do you see what I mean? Hell on earth in there. I can't even imagine. Team Dragonflies. I wish that the dragonfly emoji would show up over here on StreamYard's end, but it doesn't. It shows up as Dragonfly. And Dragonfly is the membership program over on YouTube. I release all my videos early to the Dragonflies. We give a shout outs in most of the intros and outros. When we have merch, it will be at a discounted rate. It's just a way for me to support you and for you to support me. And it's $2.99 a month. It's always going to be $2.99 a month. I'll never raise it. So I would love to have you as a Dragonfly. We've gotten a whole bunch of new Dragonflies. We're over 50 strong now in our Dragonfly memberships. So welcome to all the new Dragonflies. And if you would like to subscribe, I will put the link down in the show notes, and we would love to have you. Let me see what you guys are saying. There should never be any men near women prisoners. Ridiculous. I know that seems like that should be the way, but I don't think we could get women. We would have to pay women quite a bit of money to be prison guards, and I think we're having enough problems keeping male and female prison guards. I can't imagine staffing an entire prison with all female guards, but it would be a nice prospect. But yeah. Okay, I think that's all I have for tonight, you guys. Like I said, I do have some other stuff, but I will move it on to the next one. We'll be talking about Sarah Boone finding religion in prison. What happened to Sarah Boone's dogs? Sarah Boone's bestie gave an interview. Kind of want to go over that and find out what her bestie has to say. And do some more inmate reporting investigation. What was Sarah Boone like in jail? And also similar cases. Are there any similar cases to Sarah Boone? That's on my research list as well. Okay, guys, I'm going to go. Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps us go out into the algorithm. Dance out there. Party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help me out, and it's really, really appreciated. And as I mentioned, if you want to become a member over on our YouTube channel, we would love to have you. Here, let me show you. This is what the Dragonflies
this is what the Dragonflies are all about.
And if you're not subscribed, why are you not subscribed? I would really, really, really love to have you as a power subscriber. If you really like my content, be sure to become a Dragonfly, and that's our membership, and it's $2.99 a month. I release all my videos early. We have special emojis over in the chat room. I kind of share things ahead of time with my Dragonflies, and I go live sometimes just for the Dragonflies. It's a way that I can support you guys and give you more content, and it's a way for you to support our channel. It's $2.99 a month, and I would love to have you.
Okay. And also, I also have some videos, especially for the Dragonflies. I've been trying to build up the membership only videos. I've been adding a few things each week. So are some lives and some videos that are Dragonfly only. So, okay, guys, I'm going to go. Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. If nobody's told you this today, and even if they have, I'm still going to tell you this. I love you guys so, so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Parawomenradio, I'm Amy.
Carefully strumming this old guitar, words rolling out into the fire. Never ask why my heart burned blue. Here in the haze where you inspire me. Here in the darkness I hear my cue. Time to find some solitude. Here where my soul bleeds openly, deep in the heart of sin and you. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you. Here in the blue, I'm dancing with you tonight, and it feels fine. Carefully strumming this old guitar again, words rolling out into our fire.